Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Oi Let's Talk.
Who's that?
I actually don't know. Kate and Gemma have been replaced, clearly.
With Kyle. Kyle, take it away. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of people know me about like foster care to founder, where I grew up in foster care most of my life, and then I went into founding a business that I've grown to 80 staff or multiple businesses,
Wow.
and this year I kind of jumped online, was super excited to kind of G it up a little bit, particularly on TikTok and Instagram, and started growing like my online socials as well.
That's how I found you. You literally popped up
literally.
on my For You page. I think you'd bought presents for your staff and you gone on like the Christmas shopping spree. And I was like, who is this guy? And you look young. Well, I mean, you are young. You're 26 years old. And I was like, I need to know more about him. And then I started following you. And I think from there, I've just been interacting with all of your stuff and watching you kind of like grow your presence on social media, which is really cool.
Yeah. I feel like that's how most people know me. They're like the Mecca man.
The
From
That's
that
popped
like
off.
1 or 2 videos of me buying Mecca for stuff, but yeah.
Even the one you did recently, like the Da Vinci Code, where you were like leaving codes. I looked at that, to be honest. If you guys, for our listeners who don't know, so Kyle went to Mecca and you spent like $10,000 in Mecca or something, right?
Yeah.
10 grand?
I was trying to see if the level, I don't know what you call it, but
Fourth
the level 5.
Oh, 5.
The beauty loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was seeing if that was real, just for a laugh. And then,
Is it real? Can you confirm or deny?
well, I can confirm that it is real, but because I'm not a female and I have zero use for it, there's no way I'm going to be jumping online, chucking on like mascara or like
So it's more like
lip blush or
influencer
whatever it
stuff.
is. Like I'm not going to be chucking that on and
You sure?
promoting it for Mecca. So kind of what's the point?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's more for selected influencers that would actually push their new products, because that's what it's actually for.
I really liked what you did with that though. So he did like the Da Vinci Code for everyone listening. You did this fucking hectic code that lasts like 7 days and whoever could crack it won all of the Mecca stuff that you bought,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And then obviously someone cracked the code. What was the code?
So it was like a 2-layer code. So first I gave out just some random letters and numbers, and they meant something. So they meant different letters, which actually led to a domestic violence place here in Victoria. And then it was a double code. So that code actually, those letters also meant something, which is the final answer.
Wow.
And that final answer was coordinates to a Coles. And then while I was explaining it, there's a reason, but while I was explaining how it all worked out and the actual answer, I was shopping at Coles buying all of these items and then delivered it at the domestic violence place while explaining the video. So we ended up raising like thousands and thousands for the domestic violence shelter.
Wow,
while
that's
doing it.
incredible.
Yeah,
So
it's
tell
pretty
us a
sick.
little bit about your story. Where you
Yeah.
started versus where you are now. You're 26 years old, you're wildly successful. You've built a business with 80 staff, you said?
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of a synopsis, a background. What was
So much
what was
going
your
on.
first job?
My first job, it was I was working as like a dish pig in a what was it, like a general store.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was pretty much like cleaning the fryers.
Wow.
I couldn't even cook the fish and chips back then, but yeah, I was just
Can
like
you cook
cleaning-
them now?
Yeah,
fish
of
and
course. Honestly, you'd be impressed. But yeah, so I started there, and this is while I was still at school, and then I got a job at the place next door, which was like some Mexican place, as the dish pig there. So I was like just like the area dish pig. So I would like go to school, and then some days I would like take some time off school, go work at the general store, because usually the afternoon is where I get busy. And then at nighttime, I would do the nighttime shift at the Mexican place till like 12 a.m. And then, head home, repeat.
So already obviously a hard worker back then, doing split shifts in school.
Yeah.
What
yeah.
motivated you?
Well, apart from the free pizza, I feel like, I don't know, I've always been super, super motivated. I've seen where I came from, and I was smart enough to know that if you come from a rough upbringing, like the likelihood of you actually doing something like significant with your life is heavily decreased. So I was like, you know what? I'm definitely not going to be that person. So I always wanted to make it to uni and then kind of start a business or like become like a doctor. And I didn't get into medical school, so I was like, stuff it. I'm going to jump into nursing, and then I ended up starting a business off the back of that.
So you did nursing
Yeah.
at uni?
Yeah.
So you completed that degree and that's how you got into what you do now?
Well, I actually didn't complete it. So I went through 2 years, and then on the last years are primarily practicals. And I don't know if this is just the university I was at, but they make you go to like pracs that are like 10 hours away, and you have to pay. Like, it's not, you don't get paid for it. You actually have to pay to go. So you're paying for your accommodation, your travel, and on uni wages, like usually you're not making much if you're studying full time. So, you know, on the last year, I was like, stuff this. That's probably the final push that pushed me to go start my business. I was sitting there at like 12 a.m. in the morning, laying in my bed on campus, and I was just like tossing and turning. It was almost frustrating me. I was like, I literally just need to go like do something like different. I need to go make money. Like, this is fucked. I was like broke as. And yeah, tossing and turning. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just leaving. I'm going to go somewhere and just go start a business, just force myself into a business. So I packed my clothes. I didn't tell anyone on campus. Pretty much just chucked it in my car and just left overnight. So I left at like 1 a.m. So that decision happened very quick. Yeah, this was all the way in New South Wales as well. So I decided to drive to Melbourne.
Wow.
And I was like, stuff this.
And how old would you have been here? Like 20, 21? Younger?
Oh, 19, I think. Maybe 20.
Yeah. So you mentioned just then that you were pretty broke back then. How did you decide to start a business having no
Capital.
Yeah, having no capital, having no money in the bank, and not knowing exactly what you wanted to do?
I feel like having $7 in your account like would get anyone to do anything. So
obviously having no money in your bank, how did you start a business?
yeah. So there was like 3 main areas that I could have got into. There was service, there was products, or there was tech. Tech, expensive. You just can't do it without capital. And then products, like there is areas that you can get into, and I did actually get into products. So I got into clothing first, which is actually women's clothing.
Random.
I think I've seen you briefly post about this recently.
Yeah, not many people really know that I got into clothing. So I started a brand called Untamed Meek, and it was like this women's clothing brand. And I was trying to stay relevant, and, you know, I'm a bloke, so I have like 3 outfits in the cupboard. That's about it. So it was pretty difficult for me to try to stay on trend, but I was actually importing, because I didn't have much money. I was importing like 2 or 3 items from, I think it was like China or something, like through Alibaba, but I was making sure that they were like, you wouldn't even believe it, but I was making sure they were top quality. And it's actually crazy like how good the quality was if you select like the 1 in a million like, manufacturers that can actually do a good job. So I was bringing those over and then pretty much selling them for like 20, 30 times, you know, what I brought them in for. And that helped me build up a little bit of money. And then that's when I went into service.
And you run a service-based business now?
Yeah. So look, women's clothing product, it's so hard. Like, it actually is really hard. There was this one lady that owns Shopo.
Yeah.
That's who I was kind of looking up to when I was running the clothing business. And I was like, wow, she can do it. I'm going to do it. And then I was like, okay, this is actually hard, and it does require a bit more money, like to really scale it the way that she did. So I was like, all right, I need to go to what's, I guess, easy to generate some revenue, which is service. And I feel like, to me, service was probably the easiest way to get into the door properly. And that's exactly what I did. So I got into healthcare, like a healthcare service business.
I've seen that you've scaled quite rapidly recently, hiring a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about hiring the right people for your business that fit in with your culture, that have the same mission as you do?
Yeah, this was actually really hard because I went through this period where I just hired these people and they would either not be a culture fit, like, they either don't fit in with the culture, or they have bad morals or values, which you don't want in a business anyway. Or they were amazing people, fit in perfectly, super nice, but they just didn't have the capacity to hit the KPIs. So like it was kind of like trying to juggle between those. So I made this thing called ABC. So it's kind of like how in businesses they do like the bell curve, the top 20%, the bottom 20%, and the middle 60%. But we just go ABC. And we're trying to hire A players only. So A players are people who can objectively hit the KPIs. So they've got the experience. So if you're coming into sales, for an example, you're not coming from engineering.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that their experience just aligns to what they're looking at doing. And the second thing I look at is their values. So I make sure that their values are aligned to my company's values. So for example, one of our values is growth obsessed, and that's what I love so much. So I make sure that everyone who's coming through is literally obsessed with growing. So if they're not growing their own business, they're obsessed with like growing their career. They want to grow big teams. They want to scale. They want to get in the crazy and the chaos. So I look at all of the values that I need, and then I ensure that their values kind of align. And then the last thing I look at is, what's it called? Shit, I forgot.
Take your time. We can cut it.
Yeah, nice. Objective currency, values, and potential. Yeah, so and then I look at potential. So do they have the potential to actually grow with the business? So does their intelligence match the role that they're going in? Does their drive match the role that they're going in? Do they have the capacity to be a leader, so they have good communication skills and stuff? So that would be like the ideal A player, someone who matches those three different areas. And then you've got like your B players, which will either hit KPIs, but their values aren't as great, or their values are amazing, but they are slightly just off with KPIs. And you got your C players who either drastically fail on one of those or both of those.
I don't know why I'm laughing. That's not funny at all.
Everyone that I know owns businesses always say that people management is the hardest part, having hard conversations. Would you agree?
Yeah, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
Like if someone's not right for your business, you're actually taking opportunity away from them by not having that conversation. So imagine if someone's in your business and you know you're going to let them go, but you wait 6 months. They're probably thinking that they're going to get promotions, that they're going to grow within the business, they're going to, lead a team, and you're here being like, okay, am I getting rid of them this month, next month, the month after? So I think it's just so important to just get it done.
How did you switch into that mindset though? I think being a leader and being a good leader is very hard to do, especially when you are building teams and having tough conversations. Have you always had that mindset of like, if this person is not right for my team, I'm not going to hold on to them for longer? Or is that something that you kind of acquired as you built your business and you got better at having harder conversations?
I feel like my mindset's all about, like, I'm obsessed with growing. So I'm trying to just remove all the biggest roadblocks that are stopping me. So back in the day, I wasn't actually like that. I was too scared to get rid of it. I had people stay for a year who never hit a KPI once. But just because they were good people and I was mates with them, and I feel like generally I'm a decent person, so I do feel bad.
Yeah,
like
of course.
Yeah, I like my whole team, It's not a single person I don't like, so I would definitely feel bad doing that. So back in the day, I couldn't split that up. I was like, if I feel bad, I just can't do it. And then I realized, why aren't I growing? And there came to this 1 year where the business actually went backwards. I earned less money than the year before. And that's when I was like, all right, I have to do it. Completely changed my business. When we did that, we increased our revenue by 60% or something that next quarter.
Wild.
Yeah, so it was the biggest thing that I had to get over, but yeah, I got over it.
Yeah. Data collection, like being able to look back and be like, okay, where are the little gaps in my business that I need to kind of fill?
Yeah.
Really cool.
And I do a lot of that. Like I do a lot of data collection.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So now I want to take a bit of a left turn, as you would
Sidestep.
say, a bit of a sidestep very quickly. I want to talk about relationships, dating, and friendships. We're going in fucking
We're going
deep,
in hard.
You're
okay?
going in hard.
Yeah, we're
The
going
one thing you should
Yeah.
know about us, you meet us in 5 minutes and we're like, we're already your best mate. We want to know every fucking thing about you. So I want to know relationships, dating, friendships. How do you go being very successful, being an entrepreneur, obviously being very busy, managing teams, running a business, and having really aligned, deep, connected friendships, firstly, and then dating and relationships?
Yeah, my friendships. I feel like number one, I just need the right friends. Like I've definitely had friends who, if you don't speak to them for a week, and I'm sure you guys have had them as well, where they're like, you know, what's going on? Like, are we not friends anymore? Or like they'll like harass you. So making sure, like I just had to make sure I had the right people. And then with like maintaining like the right people, and I my friend group's amazing. It's just making sure that I've got time. So honestly, my PA helps me out by actually like asking them if they want to go to dinner. We'll book everything for me. Literally, my whole life is booked. Like even being here, like it wouldn't have been even possible without her. Like I probably would be stuck in bed right now if it wasn't for her. So my PA helps me out so much with absolutely everything. And she even reminds me, hey, did you message this friend? Did you message that friend? She's got like this little calendar just to make sure I keep in touch with people because I can easily forget.
How do you go about finding new friendships? Do you look for new friendships? Do you find it quite hard? Do you feel like people maybe, and I don't want to say the word use you, but people maybe are in friendships for the wrong reasons?
For sure, but I feel like that's so easy to pick up. Like it doesn't take a genius to pick up like if someone's not there for the right reason. You can easily tell, does someone have your back or not? If they don't, catch you later, no worries. Like, yeah, cool. If I see you, it's only because we're going out for a drink, that's it. But yeah, I always keep my friendship circle small. And then like I'll have like my acquaintances or like people that we'll have a laugh with and whatnot. But yeah, if someone's really good, for sure. Like I meet a lot of people when I'm out and about. And if I find someone, I'm like, you're cool. You're coming in my group.
You're coming with me.
Yeah, you're
You
coming
have
with
like
me.
the A players, B players, and C players. Like the same thing that you spoke about in your business. It's like the same with friendships. And
Yeah.
everyone has it, right? It's actually true.
Yeah.
Like you've got like your core group of friends, which are like your A players. They got your back. If something was to go wrong, you could call them and they'd be there. And then you've
Yeah.
got your B players and then you've got your C players.
Yeah,
It applies to everything in life,
actually
guys.
I've thought about relationships ABC. I've thought about friendships ABC. I feel like it's so like stuck in my brain
Yeah.
after that chaotic year of like, why am I not growing?
We're not done with the dating conversation. We're going straight.
I feel
We're
like get away with
circling
it.
back. I want to know, because you're building up a presence, you're highly successful. Like people are going to be attracted to that, right? It's going to be hard to figure out who you can trust. It's hard, right? How do you go about actually meeting people in a relationship sense? Is that something that you're actively doing? Are you open to that for the listeners?
For the
Honestly,
For the girls.
I don't know if I'm ready for a relationship. And like I'm not gonna lie, I can definitely see that some women are trying to like get that out of me, or like you know you can see them messaging for whatever reason that it would be for. But I don't reckon I'd be ready for at least like another year or two because I just want to do my own thing. Like damn, relationships are crazy as hell. So
I was just thinking, like, your PA is reminding you to catch up with your friends. So it's going to be hard until you're in a spot where you feel open to that.
I'm gonna
you're
get my
very
ass
driven.
whooped
Yeah.
if I didn't have a PA. I'm getting broken up with. You know what I mean?
At least you've got self-awareness with that. Like, because you obviously want to be at the right time where you can actually give to a relationship.
Yeah. I just know for sure that if I jump in a relationship now, like either the person doesn't want any affection whatsoever and just doesn't like males, or or like you know, or is going to be quite upset that I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that you know I'm set up for whatever's to come. and I just want to have like a great time. Like, I don't know. I would love to be like traveling the world with someone and, you know, actually living the dream rather than just working like 12 hours plus a day.
Yeah. You want to have
And-
time to put into the relationship.
Yeah.
Got to water the grass where you want it to grow.
Yeah, like imagine me coming home and I'm like fully fucked, barely remember your name because my brain's that like all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Nah.
This-
You go.
Okay, sorry. We always cut each other off.
It's fine. Quick.
We're too onto it. That leads me into, how do you deal with not feeling burnt out all the time? Like, you're juggling a lot of hats. Like, you've got a PA, you've got teams, you've got potentially dating, friendships, all the things that you're doing, right? How do you actually have time for yourself? And do you schedule that in where you're not on your phone, you're not on social media, you're not doing anything?
It's so hard. Like, I just raw dog life to the max.
You heard it here first, guys.
Raw
Kyle
dog it.
Raw Dogs Life built a very successful business by just raw dogging it. I
Yeah.
love it.
And I am like stressed a lot of the time. So what I do is I just go as hard as possible. It's probably like the worst advice ever. But I just go like as hard as possible. Because like I knew, like I learned this thing that to be better than everyone, you got to be like 10 times better, or you got to like put 10 times more effort.
10 times is better than 2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do that. And then I feel like even when I get home, I feel like I've just like started my next shift. It's like the graveyard shift. So I get home and then my mind switches to social media. And because I can't just use social media like normal now. Like I've got like hundreds of messages of people asking for advice on 100 million things. And I'm like always like super proactive trying to reply to all of them. And then I'm like trying to like plan out next videos and stuff. And then I'll probably get to sleep at like 12, maybe 1, and then try to get up at like 7, go to the gym, and then just like try to repeat it. But I try to make sure that I have the main things down packed. So at least I'm eating like regularly or like decent food. At least I'm going to the gym, whether that be, I try for the morning. Half the time, I'm going to be honest, half the time I have to move that to lunchtime. And then I reckon probably 75% of that time afterwards I'm going to move it to nighttime. So, but I try to do it.
Yeah.
You're doing your best.
Yeah.
I have a question. What is your end game? You are very ambitious. You're always wanting to grow. You're constantly in this growth mindset. Do you foresee that you're working towards one big thing, or do you feel like you're just going to be constantly on this growth journey?
Ooh, that's where I'm like kind of scared because I want to hit $1 billion just to kind of be like, yeah, I did it. And I remember being bullied in school and stuff as well because I've always been like that dreamer. And then people would be at school like, nah, you can't do that. You suck. And then, so I want to hit $1 billion just to kind of be like, yeah, you know, up there for like the people who are doing it tough kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it wouldn't surprise me if I hit that and I'm like, yeah, let's go for 100 bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, because you're so ambitious, and we're talking about, you know, you want to eventually just travel and kind of have some of that balance because you're going hard all the time. Just thinking you're probably always going to be hungry for more.
Yeah, and I feel like when I get to that point, like I'm always about like trying to be smarter with what I'm doing. So if I want to do that, like just keep growing as well as traveling, I just need to figure out, you know, what's the smartest way to be able to still do both, which I don't know. I don't feel like you need to be there all the time. I just like to be there because I want to just grow faster. But I'm sure that I can set it up properly enough to keep growing with just my input. Like if I just do strategy and give it to my team to execute, then what's to say, you know, maybe give them some equity in the business so that it feels like it's their business. And then that would be the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I'd be able to do both.
How long have you had your business for? How many years?
6 years?
Yeah. So it's still like not early, but it's still early days. I feel like when like you're in the like new phases of business, you want to be there all the time doing all the
Yeah.
things, and you want it to
You
grow.
have to.
You have to.
Yeah.
And then you can step away and be like, all right, I'll do all the strategy, I'll do all the like non-front facing stuff, and then you guys just execute everything. Talking about strategy, social media. Our listeners love social media. We have a lot of business owners who listen to our podcast. So
Sweet.
I want to know, you are on your social media, and I would say that you are building a personal brand around Kyle Hunt, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily the business that you own. Was there a reason for you going down the personal branding route?
Yeah,
And do
for
you
sure.
have a strategy around your social media to grow it, etc.?
Yeah, everything was completely planned, like well in advance too. I mean, I wanted to do social media around about 2 years ago, and we only started it this year. But I knew I just wasn't ready for it because the business is still like trying to put out fires everywhere, trying to grow, whatnot. But this year I was like, cool. Like all the things that you see on social media is me and it's what I do. And everyone's always been like, why don't you just do what you do and just put it on socials? So I was like, you know what? That's actually not bad. And like I put certain plans in place. Like whenever I post a video, it's for the audience. Like the Mecca thing, even though like I honestly do all that stuff all the time anyway, but like the Mecca thing, that was mainly to engage people who have just terrible bosses, shit bosses. So I wanted to engage them and get them infuriated about how much their boss sucks, pretty much. But we also had a hiring issue at the same time, so that gave us like 2,000 new resumes when we did that.
Wild.
Yeah, and the Mecca giveaway. So our KPI was to try hit 40,000 Instagram followers in this quarter. We still have 3 weeks left, so hopefully, well, in our quarter we still have three weeks left. So I actually did that Mecca code to drive engagement to my Instagram. So mainly the clues were on my Instagram story. So that was my aim because we're only sitting at like 26,000 followers on Instagram. And it was falling behind TikTok. So I was like, that boosted up. We're almost at 40,000 now with it.
I watched you do that and I was like, you fucking genius. Like from a strategic lens, I was watching you do that on TikTok and I was like, this Da Vinci Code is way not in my brain capacity at all. I'm not even going to bother. But I watched the way that you did that and I was like, that is such smart and innovative marketing.
Yeah, like I needed it to last long enough. Like more than 3 days is overkill. One day people are going to be like, oh, I didn't have enough time to do it. So it needed to be long enough where you got to follow the clues for around about 3 days. So either you need to be in, like I've caught you in the trap of you just are stuck all weekend now doing it, or you need to see who the hell won because it's going for like long enough. So that was the aim, like around about 3 days. And also I love like giving back. So I wanted to do something around, that's why the domestic violence thing, like I've grown up in these shelters. So I wanted to do something around one of those shelters. So we just kind of mixed it all together. And yeah, but that, like everything that I do on social media is like planned and it has to be. There's only very few things off the cuff, like the Yochi guy one that we did. That was like a little bit of like a authentic roast.
The crumble cookie.
The crumble cookie.
That I was dying at. Did you hear about the crumble cookie thing?
It's cooked. What are they thinking?
What is going on? Anyways, we could make
that's
a whole
thing.
podcast on that.
Yeah.
So everything that you do on social media is obviously to build your personal brand. Do you have any, I guess, future endeavors that you're wanting to do with your personal brand, or is this to really just support and grow your current business that you have?
Yeah, so you probably realize that like I've got like a little bit of a niche, which is this like the foster care to founder thing, which is like the aim of that is to show people me, like where I came from. Like I'm not just some person who's like got this big business and that's it. Like I'm just like anyone else. Like, and then there was the best boss in the world. So that's another thing that we're trying to build up, which is like our workplace is freaking cool. So why not show it off? And then like I do like a bit of authenticity around like who I am and myself as well. So those three things, we connect that together and it's pretty much for the girlies almost. Like I'm pretty convinced that
He's here for the girls.
80 or 90% of my following is females, but I think there's also a market for that.
Absolutely.
Like you've got Adrian Portelli, like he's for the blokes, you know what I mean? So I wanted to be like that one, I guess that one person who's like fitting in there, supporting the girls and also like growing my business with it. But long term, I would definitely turn it into a business because I'm sure you've seen like I guess we'll use the same example, Adrian Portelli. He's done extremely well. Like, he's a very smart man, highly profitable business, very scalable without staff members. So I think I would go into something that solves problems for females and kind of just fit in there. And I don't know exactly what yet, but there will be something.
You're doing amazing. I wanted to circle back to mindset, because you've said that you've obviously been very driven because of your background. And when you have a hard upbringing, how do you have self-belief that you're going to be able to achieve the things that you're set out to when there's so many actual physical barriers getting in your way? Like, how did you believe that what you've achieved now was possible for yourself when it didn't actually seem on paper and people were telling you that it's not?
I don't know. I feel like everyone's mindset's like slightly a bit skewed versus mine. Like, I'll see something, I'm like, yeah, that's possible. Let's go do it. I don't know. My mind's just so like.
You've kind of always been that way inclined.
Yeah, literally. Like, even me going from like foster care and getting to university, like, whoa, you know what I mean? I didn't even, like, maybe back then I didn't know that was possible, and then the moment that was possible, I was like, all right, yeah, sweet, anything's literally possible. So I just set like a big goal. Even when we do all the quarterly planning, I'll set like a big goal for the next quarter, and my whole team's like, oh, what? That's not possible. And then we do it. And everyone's like, what? And we're like, should we just set another crazy one? We're looking at each other, smirking. Yeah, maybe. Oh, that's too hard. And then we hit it. What?
What I love as well is it seems like the first time, so say you didn't think you were going to be able to go to uni based on your background, you've gone to uni and then you've proven to yourself, fuck, I can actually do anything. And then you keep going bigger and bigger and bigger because you're like practicing that self-belief each time.
Yeah. And if you just, like, you can set any goal and you can literally achieve it. Like, there's always a way. And there's this thing that I use to help me now. Like, it's kind of like a process that I put in place to help me, like, with that, is when I like set something, I'll figure out like what's the biggest roadblock for me right there and then. Look, I'll try to think of an example. So, okay. Sorry, I'm just trying
What
to
about
think
your
of, like,
new house? Surely there was barriers to getting to that, like your new apartment that you've just moved into.
Oh, that was mainly just the market was shit.
Yeah.
But even if we go back to the social media stuff,
Yeah.
like, again, it's all like being planned. Like, I want to grow it, and like we have like our set KPIs. So when I set 40,000, that's hard. I've never done that before, and I found it really hard compared to business, but only because I've never done it before. So I was like, well, what's the biggest roadblock? I don't know how to get followers on Instagram. Like, I just genuinely didn't know how to get followers on Instagram. So I would then either you would ask someone who's already done it, or I would read an audio book, or I'd watch a video on, again, someone that's already done it. And I would specifically like watch for those problems. And then, so like I was watching all these different videos, and we had like this whole like book that we made out of it, like just for like internal uses. And I was like really looking at how people like strategically move, you know, their followers around from platform to platform. And I was like, okay, so I just need to figure out like a really unique concept. But then that became the next problem. I was like, shit, that's the next problem. Ask someone who's already done it, listen to an audio book about that specific problem, or watch a video about that specific problem of someone who's already done it. And then I did that. And then then I was like, okay, so I need to get people attached to a particular video, and then that will drive them over to see the result on Instagram, and it needs to kind of hit them like in a personal like way. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, everyone loved Mecca. Everyone uses
the girls,
Mecca.
exactly. Yeah.
Yep. But then there's problems. Like, the next problem was like these social media platforms like TikTok and stuff, they kind of suppress giveaways. So, okay, how can I do it where it can't be suppressed? That was the next problem. So, like, I was figuring out all at the same time, and it's the same thing. Ask someone, listen to an audiobook, listen to a video of someone who's already done it. And then I just continue to repeat that process. You'll never have that problem again. You'll just have the next one. So I just constantly do that
I love that.
That is the best way to end this podcast.
Wait, I've got one more
Go
thing.
more, but-
Sorry.
No,
one
go.
more thing.
Yeah.
I want 3 bits of advice to any of our listeners who are wanting to start a business that maybe feel like they don't know where to start. They're full of fear of failure. They're worried they're going to be judged. What's 3 bits of little take-home advice that you can give to all of our listeners today?
All right. Well, the thing about, I guess, worried about failing, I guess 1% chance of being successful is better than 0% chance. So that's probably the first one. If you're getting into business, definitely learn sales skills, marketing skills, and learn what EBITDA is and anything connected to EBITDA. They're like the 3 most important things that like I've learnt when going into business. And if you're getting into business and you have no money, start in service and then work your way to tech. That's probably like the smartest thing that I've seen, I guess.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode.
We appreciate you. That was awesome.
We
I
love you.
was just like, I'm stuck on the good points. I was like,
Yeah,
that slapped,
it
that
was
slapped. That
good.
was so good.
Sweet.
You nailed that. I'm sure our listeners are going to be motivated, inspired from your upbringing to your background to where you are in business to how young you are to how ambitious you are. So
Maybe they'll slide into your DMs and try and date you and get you off that 2-year mark. Who knows? But if you are listening along and you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to rate us 5 stars, share it across your social media, and we'll leave all of Kyle's information in the show notes below. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Thanks for joining our podcast.